Hey everyone, it is time to review Mado Monogatari. At first I thought it was Fia and the Mysterious School, but we can go with Wondrous Academy. As for the content of the video, don't worry, I won't spoil important parts about it. And in general, I'll try to keep things simple. So expect the usual topics, story, gameplay, graphics and music. Just before beginning, some things worth mentioning about this game is that it wasn't developed by Compile Heart or Idea Factory, but by Steam Entertainment, company that has been around since early 90s. Some of their most known games are Yggdra Union, Wizardry Scenario 1, Nights in the Nightmare, and Hex's Force. Now that I look at it, these are kind of obscure games, or most people have no idea they exist. Whatever the case, as far as I know, Compile doesn't have the rights of Mado Monogatari, so at first I was a bit skeptical to get this game. But then I remembered that part of Steam was in Compile all those years ago in the 80s? So I placed my trust in that bet, and here we are. And if you wonder why the Japanese version, it's because the first time I played these games, it was because of one of those CDs that have a lot of games in one, but that is a story for another video. Now in all honesty, you don't play a Mado Monogatari because of their stories, as they have never been serious in any way. They are more like a parody to laugh and move on. For example, the very first games, when you hear that Arle rolled her pencil to get a pass in grading her exam. Yeah, I know this is a remake for a home console, but the original story isn't better on that end. In the second chapter, Arle was proposed by Satan, but instead she declined, beat the guy, and saved Carbuncle. That is the kind of stories you get out of Mado Monogatari. So how do we begin this journey? The game opens with a small cinematic, where it explains that this is a school where people learn magic, and Fia, a young girl, wants to be a great magician. And that is how we see Fia stepping into the school along Carbuncle. Her objective is to take the entrance exam, but Fia is told that it finished some days ago. However, she replied that the invitation said today, but seems like it is the entrance ceremony. Sad about the situation, she explains that it was a long journey. Low-key, if I remember well, she traveled by foot several days to reach the school, since she was told that was the tradition. Nonetheless, there were super easy ways to reach the school. Fia is told to cheer up, she's still young, and there are other paths in life. She recovers fast and says that she is going to try it next year, but then an old magician stops Fia, and she is told that she can be in the entrance ceremony. Fia's exam was a bit different, she had to reach the school, so she passed. Throughout the story, it is said that luck is one important thing to be a magician, and Fia is lucky as heck. Now how to say it, she's kinda clumsy, tomboyish and a bit of an airhead, to say the least. It kinda reminds me to a certain someone. So in the entrance ceremony, she fell asleep, and well, things cannot be that peaceful in this game, so Carbuncle took some curry from Fia. Then he is confused as a monster. Somehow the curry was eaten by another student who's a dragon, and well, you get the idea why I said that this is not a game you get because of a serious story. But if I had to say, this is one of those few games that actually made me laugh many times because of dumb events. By this point, it's worth saying that there is a lot of Japanese humor, so if you don't like something like classic approaches, then look into another direction. For the most part, I don't mind them, even those opportunistic moments because, well, Fia is a lucky girl. So things happen because they were meant to happen. If I have to point something I didn't like, is that Will, our orange dude, is so freaking noisy, and yeah, he screams way too much. Aside from that, I love this story, because it reminds me a lot to the old Monogatari games. However, I cannot really give it a high score. In my heart, I will say that it is somewhere like 7.5, even 8, just because I laughed plenty of times. But in all honesty, something more appropriate would be a 6.5. Since the get-go I will say, it is not a game for everyone. It is really charming and its narrative points into a specific direction later, but in general, it is a comedy that I won't deny I enjoy a lot. For the gameplay, let's divide it into different activities. Since you begin the game, you are asked to choose a class. You can be a swordsman, wizard, thief, and hunter. Each class has a specific row, weapons, equipment, and magic attacks. There is a decent balance, as you can equip different things to reach kind of similar stats, so don't worry that much. You can also change classes at the school. Once diving into the dungeons, you need to reach the exit by climbing some floors. As usual with these games, it is all about 5, 10, 15 floors and so on. Worst case scenario, in some chapters you will go up to 50 of them. For the most part, I will say that these dungeons are easy to traverse. In the whole game, I saw game over one time while moving around. The hardest part is that you need to eat every now and then, so I ran out of food and a trap got me. Aside from that, they aren't that complicated. Now, every time you touch an enemy or you attack them, you are thrown into this small arena where you can choose between physical attacks, magics, and some special moves. You can only control Fia. Your companions work based on commands, like support, aggressive, and things like that, so check what you need the most. But for an easy explanation, Eska had the command to attack the same enemy, while Lina had support. Based on that, they perform the best if they have those kinds of moves assigned. So the general buffer and the buffer was Lina, while Eska was all about attacks and some random heals. Meanwhile, I'll played on the offensive, aside from late chapters where they can gank on your characters and one-shot them, so later I was running in circles taking aggro and healing the party. The first half of the game isn't that challenging. On the other hand, I will say, it suffers from simplicity. Then the second half, if you don't add buffs, debuffs, and play a bit more tactical, you will see game over against bosses. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes they can move in erratic ways while releasing attacks with big area of effect, so the whole party can get wrecked. Another mechanic that can be used in these fights are some special moves. Each character is able to equip different magics, but ideally you want to synergize them. So if your main attacks are light, fire and wood, just equip those magics and try to keep a balance, as these moves can save you in multiple situations, as they hit every single enemy, and there are fights with several enemies in the field, so getting rid of one or two helps a lot. Unfortunately, I believe these actions kill the flow of the game. I don't know, I have a divided opinion about them. Yeah, it is cool that you can attack everyone like this, but sometimes you can spam these moves way too much, so it turns into something like 3-2 attacks, get what's needed to use them, stop the action to see this little cinematic, rinse and repeat. And at school you can farm some things. The game asks you to plant 2 seeds, so depending from different combinations you will get something specific. While at first it may seem complex, don't worry, there aren't many options, but you will definitely need some vegetables to cook. In that tree you can offer items, and depending from the attribute you will receive different fruits. In that little box you can organize your stuff and create equipment. The recipes will be unlocked as you complete some quest. So for the general pace of the game, you will be asked things like get this specific vegetable, or X, Y, C fruit at the tree, fish a specific something in this or that dungeon, reach floor 20 and beat this enemy, or find something lost in floor 10. So they are quite random in nature, but kinda repetitive. There are also some random activities at school. For example, you can break the pot that is found inside the principal's office, and when I saw how random it was, yep, you had me laughing. You can also break a wall by punching it several times, and things like that happen all around. Nonetheless, it is fair to say that this game is way too simple. Now, I knew perfectly well what I was getting into, as Mado Monogatari falls under that category. Easy games with simple mechanics. Considering all of this, I will give it a 7. I believe it has interesting ideas, but they are not that polished. Combined with repetitive activities due to the nature of the game, it can turn into something tedious. In the graphics section I check game performance, glitches, aesthetics and things like that. This is the PS5 version of the game. It never closed and I never saw a glitch or something worth mentioning. Right away I will say that my main issue is that there is a lack of enemies. To not show that much, imagine what happens with the Puyos. You have green, blue, purple, red, okay. Take that same idea and repeat it with every single enemy. And something similar happens with the dungeons. I believe a better execution would have been like the Serpent Cave. This is the only place that breaks the monotony of the dungeons, as its layers are completely different. I mean, due to how far you can see, it can be a bit complicated to traverse too, but I would have liked to see something like this in each region. that would have helped much more. Otherwise the experience grows stagnant after a while. Aside from these executions, I would say that I liked how everything else is presented in the game. The way in which these characters were modeled was of my liking, as well as their expressions and little comic-like images that appear along the journey. And some other characters are way too charming, like the spirits. In general, I like the creativity thrown into the game, even the way some attacks look, but I cannot defend the fact that the main dish regarding gameplay grows stagnant. To me, it is another 7. And last but not least, it's music. Mado Monogatari and music have an interesting relationship since the very first game, so I was expecting something up to that level. Well, of course, not beady as the first games, something to make me smile, and I gotta say that it offers a good diversity of tracks, and since the beginning, you had me smiling. Now, I don't mind anime stuff or things like that, but few, really few are the intros and outros that I can say, yes, I like it. On screen you can see some of those intros, but if I had to place more, I would definitely struggle. In any case, this is one of those intros I will happily add to that barren collection of anime intros I enjoy. The way in which they combined all the instruments was of my liking. Of course, the one I believe shines the most is that violin, but other group of strings don't get that back. It has a nice pace, and I like the strength of the voice. Now, the general execution is all over the place. There is a bit of electronic, some kind of jazz executions, instrumental, even interesting combinations like those Baroque approaches where they use the harpsichord, delivering a kind of palace vibe. While they don't keep the same execution along the whole composition, it goes in line with the goofy setting of Mado Monogatari. While the soundtrack is a bit short, like 27 tracks, I definitely like it. If there is something to point out regarding sound and things like that, it feels like some of the voices while talking to some people at the school were slightly messed up, as if they had reduced the volume a bit too much. I am sure that if you hear them, you will notice the difference. Aside from that, I enjoy a lot the sound effects of the game, and the voice acting is simply on point. Saya Izawa did a terrific work with Fia. Her expressions and general way of talking is simply superb. I will give this section a 9. Mado Monogatari Fia and the Wondrous Academy gets a 7.3. Unfortunately, it is not a game that I can recommend to everyone. It is decent, it lacks on some executions like the general creativity while diving into dungeons, and enemy designs. So I will say, for those curious, sure, give it a try. As for the people who played the other entries back in the day, and you know what you're getting into, yep, it was enjoyable. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.